Good morning, Idaho. Hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're listening to this. Welcome to the Local Yokel Idaho podcast, where we talk about what is going on in the wonderful state of Idaho. This week, I'll be talking about Carvana possibly coming to Idaho, Mormon crickets, plus how Costco is trying to stop you from sharing your membership with others. Now join me for the morning banter and weekly facts, but if you're short on time and prefer to skip the banter, you can use the timestamp that is down in the description to jump straight to the stories. Welcome back. I hope you all had a wonderful week last week. I most certainly did. I went over to the God and Country thing there on, I think that was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to go with Wednesday, if I remember correctly. The weeks kind of blur together. I mean, I enjoy doing this podcast, but since I started it, life is like super busy because one minute I'm trying to get the video, and then I've got work, and then I've got this, and so it just makes life go super, super fast. Not complaining, spending things wisely and being busy is awesome and great, but definitely there's moments when you're like, wait a second, what? That was over. Whatever. Any case, we definitely are feeling the heat now as of recording this on Saturday or Sunday. It is hot. Idaho finally decided to turn on the afterburners as it usually tries to do. I know we were all kind of rejoicing and enjoying that Sunday back a little bit there, that it rained and the highs were like in the 80s and stuff. And it was like, this is great. This is really nice. This is June and I can still wear long sleeves if I want. You can go kind of sit out in the evening and it gets a little brisk. It was really nice. I mean, for the rest of the state, you guys up there in northern Idaho and other areas, you're probably like, Tyler, come on. It's not that hot yet, which is fair, which is very fair. I think this Sunday, I'm going to go up to McCall if I can and try to get away from the heat and enjoy that and relax after a long week and stuff, but we'll see what ends up happening with that. I do know I was listening, I think, to Jordan Peterson. No, I take that back. I was listening to kind of a news excerpt that was like the one I listen. It's like a daily news thing. I think it's the Daily Wire's Morning Wire or whatever that I use. And they were talking about the weather that they're having back east, where they're having some really, really, really hot heat waves and other areas that are having really big rainfall and different stuff. And they had a meteorologist on that I didn't realize this, was talking about the fires up in Canada. I mean, I knew about the fires in Canada. I knew about that, and we've talked about that here before. But he was mainly talking about it in the sense of how it's affecting the weather down here in the United States. And I know with like volcanic and fire stuff, it can have a real effect on the weather, but I didn't realize it had this much. He was talking about how all the fires up in Canada and stuff, and the smoke that they're throwing off and everything has actually changed the weather so drastically that like the northeastern part of the United States is having all that rain because the fire acts kind of like a seeding effect or whatever. And then the southern part is getting all this hot weather because it's kind of pushing that out of the way. I mean, I didn't quite remember it. I'm very, very, very loosely remembering it. But he was using it to explain that's why in the northwest here we've had such cool temperatures lately. I don't remember the reasoning why. You'll have to go look out for that. If I try to, I'm going to butcher it horribly. But it was really interesting to hear that because I hadn't heard that was the reason. I just heard everyone was just like, I don't know why it's so cool here. This is awesome type of thing. But it's kind of interesting to hear that, someone explaining why it was so cool and everything. Not good for the Canadian fires over there per se, shall we say, but nice for us. But it seems that that's kind of cleared up and we're getting into our hotter temperatures, which on the one hand, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm glad to an extent that they're here because that means the corn and okra and peppers and watermelon and different types of fruits and different things that need that heat to fully mature to the level that they're needed can finally start growing and getting ready for the season so that when we come into the fall and season, then they're ripe and ready to harvest. Because on the one hand, one could be like, well, I'm not a gardener, that doesn't affect me, but there's a lot of grocery stores, specifically, I know here in Idaho, you got like Fred Meyer's, I think that does it, especially Winco and others, and then other co-ops and different things that heavily rely on local farmers. I mean, what I mean by that is during the winter, they have to like ship it in from out of state and different stuff to get what they need. But those cheaper prices that you see during the summer or the pricing that they end up doing throughout the year is expected based on the fact that they'll be able to buy cheaper produce that's local in the summer rather than the winter. So they kind of price their model according to that. So there was a period there where I personally was a little concerned that the heat wouldn't get up there so that the harvest wouldn't happen here in Idaho, and then you'd have a lot of grocery stores that would be charging a lot more because crops weren't coming in at their full weight. Still, honestly, I'm not a farmer. I don't have a ton of friends personally that are big into that, mainly just hay and then small little farmsteader people. That I don't know how the crops are doing this year. Particularly, I know we've had a lot of water, so for crops that don't need heat and stuff, I've heard that's going really, really well and consistently and stuff, which I'm very glad to hear. But I'd be curious to hear from any of you out there that are farmers and stuff. How are like the warm crops doing, like corn and stuff? Are you guys on schedule? Are you expected to kind of have that come in at the time that's supposed to come in? Or is it just going to be a little bit delayed because of the way the weather's kind of ramping up late? In any case, at least it's getting warmer now. That's what matters. It's good for that. Not as much for me, which means I'm going to be up in the mountains a lot more, getting away from it as much as I can on the weekend, and I will be sweating all week at work, which is a main detractor. But getting into the God and Country event, I went to that for the first time. I know there's probably some people out there that have gone before and are like, how have you gone? Hold your horses. I've gone now, so I can say I've gone, right? And I went, and it was good. I'm not a person personally who really likes going to concerts. I'm one of those people that's like, hey, I like music to an extent. I'll listen to live music, but I really don't like going to a big venue. I would rather sit there and say, hey, if I really like music, I'll spend the money to get some really nice headphones and some really nice equipment and stuff, and then I can control the volume of that. And I know it's not the same, but I'm not one of those people that needs to particularly like feel the music. I like to be able to control it to a certain amount where it's not blasting my ears away. And most places that I've ever gone that have had anything live have a habit of going over on the volume, shall we say. And so concerts usually aren't my preferred thing, but this actually was really, really good, and I would recommend it if you've got maybe kids that are a little sensitive of volume and crowds and stuff. It wasn't really bad. I mean, it definitely was busy, but honestly, it was less busy than the Boise Fair, way less busy than the Emmett Cherry Festival, in the sense of like how packed people were per se. There was definitely probably a lot of people there that were coming in and out. And I saw friends that came in for an hour and then they left and they weren't there for the whole thing, and others that came in the latter half and weren't in the first half. So people kind of cycled in and out of it. But if you're one that doesn't really like tight crowds, you'll probably really enjoy it, assuming it's the same size as it was this year. I heard some people say that it's like different per year and it's larger or smaller. But there was plenty of room for us to kind of sit down with the people I was with and have plenty of room where we didn't feel like we were boxed in really heavily and you had people breathing down your neck and stuff, which was really, really nice. And the piece of resistance was like the fireworks at the end. They were really, really pretty. I will admit there was a part of me, don't get mad at me, people, that like they started the fireworks show and it was at the Ford Idaho Center. And so you have the parking lot that kind of wraps around the Ford Idaho Center from the west around to the east in that kind of 90-degree angle. And they put it out in the west parking lot and they had a couple fireworks, and it might have just been the nature of the fireworks. I don't know, but they didn't go super high. Like they went high, but not a high enough to get above the tree line that was kind of there. And so you'd see these fireworks and be like, oh, cool, there's fireworks. But then they were low, they weren't actually up in the air where you could like see them really, really well. But later on, as the firework performance went on, they did some more larger aerial ones, and that problem was a moot point completely. And it wasn't an issue at all. It was really, really pretty, and I really, really enjoyed it. And if you can next year, I would recommend giving it a try and going. There's a lot of really friendly, sweet people there. Even if you're someone who isn't from the Treasure Valley area, that you're up north or out east and you're trying to decide, well, what time of year do we want to come and visit? And you're going to be at the festival and you're not going to know a lot of people in the surrounding area. People are very, very welcoming there, and you can probably strike up a conversation with anyone as long as you have the confidence to then do that, because I definitely have my moments where I'm kind of lacking in that respect. But yeah, that was kind of my experience with the God and Country event. I enjoyed it. It was good. I would recommend it to someone else to go to event. Will I go next year? I don't know. For me, events kind of depend on the people that are there. If I know people that are there and they're people I really enjoy, then I'll go to pretty much about anything, shall we say, as long as I've got people that I know there and that there'll be good conversation to be had. But if I don't know one, I usually won't go. But in any case, I would recommend it. With that said, let's get into the holidays and weekly facts. Starting off with Monday, the 3rd of July, which is National Chocolate Wafer Day. As for in history, just one in 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg was fought, ending in a major victory for the Union and being the largest battle ever fought on the American continent. I did not know that when I was doing research for this. That was actually really interesting. As for birthdays, Monday was George M. Conan's birthday and is Tom Cruise's 60th birthday. As for deaths, in 1916, Hetty Green died. Next is Tuesday, the 4th of July, which we all know as Independence Day, God bless America, and is National Alice in Wonderland Day. Granted, as much as those books are great, I don't know who will be celebrating that day with Independence Day existing there. Maybe some people over the pond. I have no idea. As for history, in 1776, the U.S. Congress proclaimed the Declaration of Independence and independence from Great Britain. In 1803, the Louisiana Purchase was announced to the American people by President Thomas Jefferson. As for birthdays, Tuesday is America's birthday, James Bailey's and Calvin Coolidge's birthday. As for deaths, in 1826, John Adams died. Also in 1826, Thomas Jefferson died. In 1831, James Monroe died. And in 1934, Marie Curie died. Moving into Wednesday, the 5th of July, which is National Hawaii Day, Graham Cracker Day, and National Workaholics Day, which I am chief among at times. As for in history, in 1687, Isaac Newton's principles were published by the Royal Society of England. It outlined the laws of motion and universal gravitation. In 1865, the U.S. Secret Service began operating under the Treasury Department, and in 1994, Amazon.com was founded in Bellevue, Washington. As for birthdays, Wednesday was David Farragut's and P.T. Barnum's and Cecil Rhodes' birthday. As for deaths, in 1937, Chester Greenwood died. Then Thursday, the 6th of June, is National Fried Chicken Day. Honestly, I think the fried chicken should be on the 4th of July, and then Alice in Wonderland Day should be on Thursday. Just a suggestion. As for in history, in 1785, the U.S. Congress unanimously resolved to name the U.S. currency the dollar and to adopt the decimal coinage. And in 1970, California passed the first no-fault divorce law. As for birthdays, Thursday is George W. Bush's 76th birthday. As for deaths, in 1835, John Marshall died, and in 1971, Louis Armstrong died. Friday, the 7th of July, is National Strawberry Sundae Day and World Chocolate Day. As for in history, in 1928, sliced bread was sold for the first time in Missouri by Chillicothe Baking Company. Sorry if I got that name wrong there. It's a little bit of a mouthful. And in 1937, Japanese and Chinese troops clashed at the Marco Polo Bridge, beginning the Second Sino-Japanese War. And in 1947, the Roswell UFO incident happened. As for birthdays, Friday was Otto Rohwitter's birthday. As for this, in 1930, Arthur Conan Doyle died. Saturday, the 8th of July, is National Freezer Pop Day. Very fitting. As for history, in 1783, Laki Volcano, located in southern Ireland, began its 8th month eruption, killing around 10,000 and causing widespread famines across Asia and Europe. And in 1789, James Madison introduced the proposed Bill of Rights to the U.S. House of Representatives. As for birthdays, Saturday was Frank Wright's birthday and is Kanye West's 46th birthday. As for deaths, in 1809, Thomas Paine died. In 1845, Andrew Jackson died. And in 1966, Joseph A. Walker died. Lastly, we come to Sunday, the 9th of July, which is National Dimples Day and Sugar Cookie Day. As for in history, in 1868, Louisiana and South Carolina were the last states to ratify the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And in 1971, Henry Kissinger visited the People's Republic of China to negotiate between the U.S. and China. As for birthdays, Sunday was Edward Heath's and O.J. Simpson's birthday, and is Tom Hanks' 66th birthday. As for deaths, in 1850, Zachary Taylor died, and in 1977, Alice Paul died. Moving into the news here with our first story, Carvana considering coming to Boise. This comes by the Boise Deb by Donde. Some of you may or may not know this company. Carvana is an online used car retailer that has blown up in recent years with some physical locations. They're looking to expand in Boise, and they have applied for a zoning certificate for a piece of property near the Idaho Ice World. Granted, Carvana is already operating in the Boise metro area, but they're looking to expand their presence in the city. The company has applied for a zoning certificate for a property at 7355 South Eisenman Road, which is near Idaho Ice World. If the zoning certificate is approved, Carvana would share the site with Adisa Boise, which is a wholesale and consignor dealer of cars, boats, RVs, and more. For context of what Carvana is, they are a fast-growing company, and they have been rapidly expanding in recent years. They're known for their online car sales platform, which allows buyers to browse and purchase cars from the comfort of their own homes. Carvana also operates a network of, quote, car vending machines, end quote, which are multi-story towers that store cars. Buyers can choose their vehicles online, then show up at the giant vending machine with a token to pick it up. It is unclear when Carvana would open the new location in Boise if the zoning certificate is approved. However, the company's expansion plans are a sign that there is a growing demand for online car sales in the Boise area. Which, I will admit, for all of us guys, we are definitely guilty of sitting there and being like, okay, I don't need a truck, or I don't need a sports car, but I'm just going to look on Carvana. I'm just going to look on Auto Trader. I'm just going to look real quick. I'm not going to buy anything. I'm just curious. Or back in the day, guys just going into the dealership and looking at cars or car lots, and they never intended to buy anything, and most likely don't, thank goodness. But always that curiosity to go look. So I have gone over to Carvana when there's been times in the past when I was thinking about different stuff, like when the gas prices got really bad, like a year or two back. I was like, I'm curious, how much does like a Nissan Leaf or some electric car cost, and what's their range so I can grab around town? Anywho, I went on there and looked at their stuff and things, and definitely hands down across all the other car online used car sites or whatever, they have some of the best software, shall we say, for that experience. Like, you can go in and pick a car, and they kind of do this whole photo thing where they drive the cars in on a ramp, and then it's almost like a giant turntable for the car, and then it rotates, and then the camera takes tons of photos of every angle. And so when you're in the software, you can rotate the car around, you can see every bit, you can zoom in on each photo, and they'll have close-up photos, so they have different layers of those photos, so you can get as close or far away as you want to kind of see, to get an overall look at the car, in-person look. So you can kind of inspect it just like you were kind of there. And they also do a similar thing for the interior of the car, where they do like a 360 interactive kind of photo where you can look and you can zoom in really close on dials and everything. And they have a super detailed like report and different stuff. And I think they may even take photos of like the bottom of the chassis, and you can kind of jump into the engine bay and things. And they get really, really nitty gritty in detail, where like you'll even see in the notes of stuff like a dent on rear left fender or whatever. And it'll have a photo and like point it out when you're going in that 3D thing. It's really, really cool. And I haven't seen them here in Idaho anywhere. Maybe there is one over in Pocatello or something. But when I went back east, I know for sure in the Nashville area or somewhere along there, I saw one of these. And it's this big kind of like glass cylindrical building that kind of rises up. It's several stories, it stores several stories worth of cars in it. You just kind of drive along the freeway and you'll see this massive thing, and it'll say Carvana over the top of it. And then you'll see this big, like kind of cylindrical building, and there'll just be stories and stories of cars kind of stored up in there. And I've seen some videos of what the inside looks like and stuff, where you come in and then there's this whole robotic system that will literally, your car is stored up in there. And it will go up, it'll grab it, and it'll bring it down in a whole automated conveyor belt and give it to you, and you can drive off with it. And I've heard of many people that have bought from Carvana here in the Valley before they've had this set up or whatever else, and have been really pleased. With that said, that whole experience is really, really great as a used car person, but they definitely are the most expensive when you're looking for used cars. That, if you went over to Auto Trader or something else, they're definitely going to have cheaper options for cars to buy, because a lot of that niceness, the photos they take, them delivering it to you, all those different things add on to the cost of what you're paying at the end of the day that they have to roll into for that car. But they definitely will regularly have like the best cars, nicest. I've heard very many people that are like, yeah, if you buy from Carvana, you're probably getting a decent car if they say it's a decent car, and you can really inspect it and do your due diligence on it, which is really, really nice. So it's cool to see they're going to be adding one of these, or sort of. It'll be interesting to see if it gets approved. If it does get approved, you guys should definitely go drive over there if you can, or if you're somewhere else in the state, make sure to travel through and see it, because it's a really cool thing to see, a very unique thing to see. Same with like the Topgolf that they added recently. Moving into our next story here, kind of keeping with the guy theme of things. F-16s come to Gowen Field to replace. This comes by the Boise dev by Margaret Carmel. The U.S. Air Force has announced they're going to transition from the A-10 Thunderbolt II to the F-16 Fighting Falcons. The A-10s have been at Gowen Field since 1976, and they are known for their ability to provide close air support to ground troops. The F-16s are a more versatile jet, and they're also used for air-to-air combat. The Air Force says that the transition to F-16 is a way to better align with the national defense strategy. The NDS calls for a more agile and adaptive military, and the F-16s are seen as a better fit for that. The F-16s are also expected to be more cost-effective than the A-10s. The Air Force says that the cost of operating an F-16 is about half the cost of operating an A-10. The transition to the F-16s is expected to take place over a 2-year period. The first F-16s are expected to arrive at Gowen Field in the spring of 2027. Now, I'm not going to get super deep into this because, one, I don't have the credentials to do that. I know there's some guys that are really big fighter nerds and can tell you all the different like specifications, or just aircraft nerds in general. I have a certain amount of background in aircraft and things. I have my UAS, Unmanned Aerial Systems drone license. But I don't have that much in like fixed wing and understand that world. I understand a bit of the regulations and different things in the terminology that's used in your attack angle and different stuff, which I'm not going to bore you with. But I'm not super knowledgeable on this. With that said, bringing my super uneducated opinion, it is kind of sad to hear the A-10 Warthogs, as I guess they've gotten the name. I don't know if Warthogs is the official name that's in them, like A-10 Thunderbolt. Maybe I'm mixing it up in my brain here. Are just an iconic aircraft with that burr that they make and the ammunition they have, and just the history behind them and how well they serve the U.S. in Iraq and Afghanistan and different engagements and things. Like an interesting like side history. I remember like watching a video on them. The bullets they shoot, I think, are depleted uranium tipped. So the reason for that isn't just because it's cool, which it is cool, but mainly for the fact that the compression ratio, I think it is, or something about the metallurgy of uranium. When you're shooting things that hard, it actually has a better punching force going through things because it doesn't give. I'm very butchering this, shall we say, compared to like standard steel or brass or whatever. So if you're wanting the maximum penetrating power, uranium tipped rounds are really good for that, which is exactly what the A-10, from what I understood, was built for. It was originally designed for during the Cold War. We were expecting a ton of like Russian tanks if the war ever broke out to kind of be lumbering over Eastern Europe towards the West, towards Germany and stuff. And we wanted a fighter aircraft that could quickly take out tons of tanks and support ground troops stationed there in close air support. And so that's what they built. And for that role, it does a really good job. On the flip side, I don't know much about the F-16. I've heard the name. I haven't researched it a ton. I know in general, when Boeing gets their things together, they can make great stuff. That's a different discussion for another time. I'm not here to say that which one's better or worse. I think they have different roles. I don't know if the F-16 will be able to fill the role of the A-10 quite as well, because the A-10 is a very specialized piece of equipment aimed at helping ground forces, rather than the F-16, from what I understand, and from what they've kind of said here. It's designed to air-to-air combat, but then again, I don't know. Maybe it also is really well designed for ground, so you can have both of them in one package. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. It is sad to see the A-10s go away. I don't know if this is phasing out, or if they're moving the A-10s somewhere else, or whatever else that's going on. But hopefully, I know there's some air shows that happen where you'll be able to see them before they probably leave, because as they said here, they're expected to kind of leave or arrive about 2027. So you've got a little bit of time. You should be able to still see them and experience kind of that burr that the A-10s kind of have. Now, moving out of the automotive and the mechanical and a little bit into the more organic world, Idaho's yearly flood of Mormon crickets. This comes by the Boise Dev by Ann Daly. You may or may not have heard of this, but Idaho has an interesting event that happens with Mormon crickets. In the early spring and summer, they'll be seen swarming so thick that they can cover every square inch of a road, I've been told. These crickets are typically brown or black in color, but their appearance can vary. They are in the katydid family and are about the size of a thumbnail, and they have long antennae. Mormon crickets are known for their migration behavior and their tendency to form large swarms. These swarms can be hundreds of thousands of insects strong and travel around half a mile each day. Mormon crickets are native to the western United States, and they are most common in Idaho, Nevada, and Utah. They're typically seen in the spring and summer when they're looking for food. Mormon crickets can eat a variety of plants, including grasses, crops, and even trees. When Mormon crickets swarm, they can be a nuisance for drivers. The insects can clog roads and make it difficult to see. They can also be destructive to crops and cause power outages even. The Idaho State Department of Agriculture actually has a Mormon cricket and grasshopper control program that tries to fight and control infestations. With it said, if you see a swarm, it's best to avoid driving through it if possible. You should also contact your local authorities if you see a swarm that's causing damage to property. Which I've heard many a person talk about them and them coming out and them seeing them or driving their bikes through them and these swarms and stuff where it makes the road really slick and just gooey and yucky and all that and everything. I actually haven't been out and about or driving in the areas where they are when they show up. You can drive on them from what I've heard and it's fine. Granted, as I kind of said in the last bit of the script there, wouldn't recommend it per se because, you know, they're there on the road and it's probably hot and it's going to be slick. And so you're going to have maybe some different traction things going on. I definitely wouldn't get out of the car personally without a flamethrower or something. But yeah, I didn't know they were in the katydid family. I guess you could call them the katydids of the West because I know back east, is it katydids or... what are they called? My brain is blanking it. There's a name for the type of bug that you hear in the South all the time. And I know it's in the katydid family, but I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. Someone's going to message me on Twitter or somewhere and be like, Tyler, what was this? And I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Or I'm going to be talking through this and I'm going to remember it. But anyway, I guess if you ever get a chance to see them, be an interesting sight, but it's something that I never really realized until I got older. There was something that existed because I just didn't travel through there. Some people I know see them a lot because they travel through the backcountry and areas. I hear they show up a lot over in the Waihees and over by Lucky Peak Dam over there. I've heard some people see them a lot. I have not, but I thought it was something interesting to share if you've got a kid that's really into bugs, maybe a definite thing to go see. I think the period has ended, or it might be going on right now. I can't remember off the top of the head. You'll have to check. But it was also very interesting to hear that the Idaho Department of Agriculture actually has a program to deal with them, which kind of, I guess, shows you in some areas how lethal and how much of a problem they can be here in the West, that you need a dedicated program to that. I don't know how big the program is, though, and how involved that is, but definitely something interesting and something to be aware of in the mountainous areas and different parts of Idaho when you're traveling this spring and summer. Now, coming back around to the military Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Meridian. This comes by KTVB7 by Andrew Bartline. The Wall That Heals, a 3/4 scale replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial that is on display in Meridian for a limited time. The Wall That Heals is a traveling exhibit that has been over 300... The Wall That Heals is a traveling exhibit that has been to over 300 communities across the United States. The Wall That Heals is made up of 144 individual panels, each of which is 4 feet tall and 3 feet wide. The panels are arranged in the same order as the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. Visitors to the Wall That Heals can walk along the wall and read the names of more than 58,000 Americans who died in the Vietnam War. They can also leave flowers or other proposal items on the wall in memorial of their loved ones. The Wall That Heals is a powerful reminder of the sacrifices that have been made during the Vietnam War. It is also a place for people to heal and reflect, which I don't have a ton to comment on. If I think I did, I'd be scratching the surface of what there is to talk about. I personally don't have any direct family that was involved in the Vietnam conflict. I had a grandfather that was in World War II and went over there and was a sniper and stuff, and then worked for Boeing and some other things. I have a couple other family members that are involved in stuff, but nothing with like Vietnam. But I know there's a lot that went over there and have experiences and stories to tell. And they're one of those sections of veterans that we still have a lot of. When it comes to the World War II ones, it's sad to see that we're kind of getting to the end of where a lot of them are passing away and aren't with us anymore, which is very sad to see. But thankfully, we have a lot of Vietnam veterans that are still alive. I've always been curious about asking one of them, especially one of the Huey pilots, about that experience, because in the Vietnam War, I know the tactics that the U.S. was using was this air superiority idea where, hey, if we've got enough helis and we can drop enough firepower downfield and communicate, we can drop in, we can drop out, we can deal with all these firefights, and we can just overwhelm them with precision, for lack of a better word, rather than mass, and just be ultra mobile, and they'll be hard to hit and everything, which that had its ups and downs, we'll put it that way. I know the Vietnam War is one of those things that I haven't done a ton of research on as wars. There's other ones that I've done more on, but definitely an interesting conflict in American history to look at for sure. And if you're a person who has a special connection to that or a veteran or different things, this might be a really good exhibit to go see for yourself. Next and lastly, we have Costco cracks down on card sharing. This comes by KTVB7 by Megan Divers. I know this isn't a purely Idaho topic, but I know there's a lot of people in the state that really, really enjoy, and people that I know as well, that Costco is their main kind of place to go to, and I feel like this would affect a lot of people in Idaho, so I wanted to bring it up and share it. I've done it, and we have all done it, sharing your Costco card with a family or friend, but it looks like Costco is going to crack down on that. As many of you know, Costco is a membership-only warehouse club, and members must have a valid membership card to shop there. However, in recent years, according to them, there has been an increase in the number of people sharing their membership cards with others. This is especially common at the self-checkout, where customers can scan their own cards without having to show them to an employee. Costco is cracking down on this practice because they say it is unfair to paying members. When people share their cards, they're essentially getting a free ride. To crack down on membership card sharing, Costco is now requiring customers to show their membership cards with their photos at self-checkouts. If a membership card does not have a photo, then customers must show a photo ID. This new policy is expected to deter people from sharing their membership cards, and is also a way for Costco to ensure that they only pay members that are shopping at their stores. For context, Costco is the third largest retail company in the U.S. by sales revenue. According to the last third quarter, Costco has more than 69 million members and nearly 125 million authorized membership card holders. Which I don't know there in that last part why it's different, where you have 69 members and then you have 125 million authorized membership card holders. I don't know if that's accounts where you have like 69 accounts and then the total like amount of cards. We have a family where like the mother and then the husband have a card and maybe the teenager has a card, where they're counting the cards. That's where you get that 125 million type of card holders. I have no idea. Also, on a huge rambit and side note, if you want to see a video that's just kind of mind-boggling, go look up videos of when the first Costco opened up over in Asia, or it might still be happening. I have no idea. Asians love Costco over there, apparently, and I hear that's kind of the case also here in America, and they just got swamped over there in China. I think was the place that they were talking about. Really, really interesting, kind of eye-opening video, but that's a whole different topic. But I can admit I've done this before, sharing stuff with cards with the family, mainly for the fact that mom just wanted me to pick something up for her at Costco, and I was like, well, I can drive over there, and she can't, so I went over there and picked it up for her and stuff. I go back and forth. On the one hand, I get what Costco's saying here. They're like, hey, you should be a person that paid for the membership, and thus you can reap the benefits. If you're not someone that didn't pay for it, then you don't get to reap the benefits. Okay, I get that, and I understand that. But there's another side of me that's like, hey, come on. If someone is lending their card to a friend, wants to go do that and stuff, you're still giving the revenue. You're still paying for the gas. You're still getting that stuff. Unless you're telling me the factors of how close your margins are so slim that the card membership is the thing that's making that gas, it's making that food profitable, then okay, I think you've got a point there. But then again, this does, I feel like, come as a growing trend in the United States, as we've seen with a lot of businesses, from Netflix being kind of a big example of that, and now Costco as another one, trying to tighten the belt, shall we say, and save or make as much money as they possibly can. Because right now, I think, as all of us can admit, it's not great economically. Gas prices are up, everything seems to be up. It's just expensive, and companies are also feeling that. It's not just the average Joe that's feeling that as well. The reason that those prices are so high is it goes to everyone. When the cost of energy, gas in particular, goes up, the cost for everyone goes up. So Costco is having to probably deal with that and saying, well, before we let it slip, that's like, we're letting 2%, maybe 3%, 4% profit slip. And that's fine, because in the grand scheme of things, we're growing so much, we're making so much, and we don't want to make our customers angry with us or whatever else. So we'll just go with it. It's a loophole. We'll leave it for now. Don't worry about it. But in today's economy and market, they're like, wait a second, that's 7% more profit we can make. We need that 7%. That 7% keeps us afloat. That 7% we really, really need right now to make those payments on credits and other things and different stuff. We need that. Let's cut that loophole. We need to do that. Same with Netflix. Same with a lot of other companies that they're doing that right now. They're like, hey, we were really, really nice, but we need that extra 7%. We need that extra 2% to make ends meet right now and to keep our operations where they're at without having to raise prices on people, which a business really doesn't want to do that per se. I mean, they do for profit to a certain extent, but like with memberships and things, they want to keep that as low as they can so they can get as much people in as they can. So it makes sense that they don't want to raise it, and so they're trying to find ways to make that membership or that model more profitable. I'm on the fence. I get why they're doing it to have a right. On the other hand, I'm like, if someone shares their card with me and I got to go pick something up from, it shouldn't be a huge issue, especially if I'm doing the self-checkout, man. I understand you have it at like the main checkouts and different stuff. Maybe you do it at the gas pump or whatever, but that would like take forever. But like self-checkouts, if you got a friend, they got to go grab something from Costco. They need to grab some bread for their friend, or a son or a daughter's got to run for the store to their mother to grab a couple things. That's like a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe it adds up. I'm ignorant on this. There's probably some Costco worker or friend of mine that's just screaming at me right now saying it does matter. What are you talking about? But in all fairness, we'll see what ends up happening. If it helps, if it doesn't help, if there's a huge amount of backlash, I have no idea. But something to be aware of next time you're thinking about sending your kid to the store to go pick up some stuff from Costco for you that probably aren't going to be able to do it, sadly. Now, moving into the Quickies, these are stories that weren't worth a full story, but things I still felt that were valuable for you to be aware of. First one here we have is Amalgamated Sugar CEO retires. This comes by the Boise Dev by Morgan McDonald. Idaho-based beet sugar processing company Amalgamated Sugar has announced a new president and CEO, Fran Melecha. Mr. Melecha previously served as the CEO at Compass Mineral International, Inc., and will be taking over for the previous CEO, John McCready. McCready concluded his 8-year tenure as CEO and will be continuing to serve as an advisor throughout the transitionary period. Melecha has over 30 years of experience in agriculture and mining industry and is also a member of the board of directors of several public companies. The chairman of Amalgamated Sugar, Mike Garner, said that the company is, quote, thrilled, end quote, to have Melecha join the team. He said that Melecha's, quote, extensive experience in multiple industries and his proven track record of leadership make him the ideal candidate to continue our legacy of excellence, end quote. For context, Amalgamated Sugar is the second largest manufacturer of beet sugar in the United States. Amen, Idaho. The company has offices in Boise and factories in Twin Falls, Nampa, and Paul, as well as sugar facilities in southern Idaho and eastern Oregon. The company's facilities produce up to 2.2 billion pounds of sugar each year. Next is new coffee shop with an outdoor theme in Meridian. This comes by the Boise Dev by Ann Daly. This month, a new coffee shop opened up in Meridian. Its name is Wild Thing Coffee Company. It is located at 2900 West Excursion Lane, which is at the intersection of Vietnam Veterans Memorial Highway and South 10 Mile Road. The shop is owned by Rika Hallow, who started the business in a coffee trailer earlier this year. The shop's menu features a variety of coffee and tea drinks, as well as breakfast burritos, sandwiches, and baked goods. Many of the ingredients are sourced from local businesses. One of the things that sets them apart from other coffee places is their unique drinks, such as Lost River Latte, Cascade Campfire, Hell's Canyon Huckleberry, and Snake River Snickers. The Lost River Latte is made with espresso, steamed milk, and a hint of orange blossom honey. The Cascade Campfire is a white chocolate matcha with gingerbread and cinnamon. The Hell's Canyon Huckleberry is a blueberry lavender latte, and the Snake River Snickers is a chocolate hazelnut latte with caramel and peanuts. In addition to drinks, the Wild Things Coffee Company also has a variety of food items, including breakfast burritos, sandwiches, and baked goods. The breakfast burritos are made with locally sourced ingredients such as eggs, bacon, cheese, and potatoes. Obviously, potatoes. The sandwiches are also made with locally sourced ingredients, and the baked goods are made freshly daily. Wild Things Coffee Company is open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Next is a little bit of a quick political update. Vote of no confidence for Governor Little and House GOP members. This comes by the East Idaho News by Kevin Richard. As many of you know, a weekend or two ago, the Idaho Republican Party held its summer state committee meeting. Many things happened at the meeting, which you may know from my interview with Forrest Tomlin, but if not, please go check that out. But one to note is the vote of no confidence for several Idaho House Republicans and now Governor Brad Little. At the meeting, Idaho Republicans called out 14 GOP House members for blocking a bill that would have banned public and school libraries from distributing material defined in the bill as harmful to minors, not beneficial for education, and appealed to the immature desires of minors. The bill in question was House Bill 314. Which was vetoed by Brad Little in April. Little said he vetoed the bill because it would have allowed parents to pursue fines up to $2,500, and his words would have created a, quote, bounty system, end quote. The House voted 64-24 to override Little's veto, but fell one vote short of the two-thirds majority needed. The 14 House Republicans who sided with Little and opposed the override have been called out. A no-confidence vote was taken at the GOP Central Committee meeting in Chalice over the weekend. The no-confidence vote ended up also including Little, but it wasn't planned originally to have him. Republicans say they are disappointed in Little for vetoing the bill and for not supporting their efforts to remove harmful and pornographic content from taxpayer-funded libraries. Next story is Rigby Airport gets a new addition. This comes by the East Idaho News by staff. The Rigby Airport in Idaho has received $373,000 in improvement grants from Governor Brad Little's Leading Idaho initiative. The grant is going to be used to construct a new parallel taxiway. The new taxiway will allow aircraft to taxi safely to and from the runway, even in inclement weather. It also makes it easier for large aircraft to land at the airport, which could lead to an increased air traffic and economic activity in the area. Rigby Airport supports 66 jobs and generates $5.4 million in GDP and contributes $11.5 million in total output. The new taxiway should help to ensure the airport continues to play a major role in the economic development of the area. Coming back to the Treasure Valley, Rediscover Books closes Caldwell location. This comes by the Boise Deb by Maria Rodriguez. Rediscover Books, a locally owned bookstore in the Treasure Valley, will be closing its downtown Caldwell location after 4 years. The bookstore's co-owner Bruce and Laura Delaney announced the closure on Tuesday via Facebook. The Delaneys said that despite their best efforts to keep the store open, many circumstances were outside of their control. They cited the COVID-19 pandemic and the rise of cost of rent as some of the factors that contributed to the decision to close. The downtown Caldwell location was the Delaney's second bookstore location. They opened their first store in downtown Boise in September of 2006. The couple also owns Once and Future Books, a small bookstore on 13th and State Street in Boise. The Delaney said their two Boise locations are, quote, thriving, end quote, and will remain open. They also plan to be in Caldwell monthly and have a planned pop-up shops, books, wine events, and school projects in order to stay connected with the community. With that all said, the Delaneys said they hope to come back to Caldwell and reopen their bookstore one day when the time is right. Next is Boise River floating season. This comes by KTVB7 by staff. The Boise River floating season officially began on June 29th, just in time for the heat wave that has been ramping up. River flows have dropped to about 1,200 cubic feet per second within the range that is typical for the official floating season. Equipment rentals and other services will be offered at Barbara Park, and a shuttle service will be offered between Barbara and Ann Morrison Park. Equipment rental hours are from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. Parking is available at Barbara Park for a fee of $7. Parking at Ann Morrison is free. However, there will be no parking in Ann Morrison Park on July 4th, so you might want to hold off until after July. With that said, make sure to wear a life jacket, bring sunscreen and or a hat, plenty of water, and be aware of the surroundings while floating down the river. And lastly, I-86 and I-15 interchange on schedule. This comes by the East Idaho News by Logan Ramsey. For those over in Pocatello, this is good news. According to the Idaho Transportation Department, ITD, it is on track to complete the overhaul of the interstate interchange system in Pocatello/Chubbuck area in the summer of 2025. For those not aware, the project includes construction of 4 new bridges, elimination of the left-hand exit from I-15 to I-86, and the improvement of bike and pedestrian crossing at the Chubbuck Road. The exit bridges on I-15 were constructed in 1960 and were in need of replacement. ITD decided also to redesign the system's interchange to make it safer for travelers. The speed limit has been reduced to 55 miles per hour for the duration of the project. Plus, Idaho State Police have increased their patrols on the stretch of the interstate to deter people from speeding through the construction zone. Officials say the project is on track to be completed on time and within budget. However, motorists should be aware of the construction and the delays it may incur and plan accordingly. Thank you for listening to the entire podcast. I sincerely hope you found it enjoyable and valuable. If I missed any important points or provided incorrect information, please feel free to reach out to me via email at localyocolidaho2022@gmail.com or on Twitter by tweeting me at localyocolidaho. As a one-man show, I'm not able to cover everything, but I'll do my best to cover the most interesting and important stories. Thank you for your continued support and assistance. That's all for now, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Godspeed.